Hello everyone, my name is Victor. I am the Occult Technician, and this is Mind War, Season 5, Episode 9.
Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Join the Mind War today. Enlist at patreon.com/mindwar. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to Mind War, folks. I appreciate you being here. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get started. Folks, we're going to pick up where we left off in the book Ultimate Journey by author Robert Monroe. We're going to pick up on chapter 16, titled The Roadside View. We'll start off here. It says, the human mind consciousness has speculated for eons as to our Creator beyond the aperture. I have not been able to engage in this for reasons I now recognize. Because of the continuing use of the label of God in a myriad of variations, I had resisted any attempt at identification in any descriptive form. The discoloration and misconceptions would be too great. Now I know why I had resisted. The same applies to the word spiritual and many other commonly used terms. So again, this is in the same theme where we see Monroe trying to stay away from spiritual or religious terminology and creating a lot of pseudo-scientific terms in order to describe what he's experiencing. And so we continue with that, and he goes on to say, these to me are knowns, and he writes knowns with a capital K, and it says this, our Creator, is beyond our comprehension as long as we remain human. So he's saying we will never be able to understand God until we move outside of our human physical form. The Creator is the designer of the ongoing process of which we are a part. The Creator has a purpose for such action beyond our ability to understand. So again, the Creator has designed this process that we're in, and there is a purpose that we don't quite fully understand yet. The Creator makes adjustments, fine-tuning in this process as needed. The Creator establishes simple laws that apply to everyone and everything. Those, I think we can describe as natural laws. The most important laws of the universe, the ones that I think we all need to relearn natural law, what it really means. What are the laws that govern life itself? Maybe if we start with those laws, all the confusion and silliness that goes on with the laws that man comes up with, we can start to set some of those aside and get back to reality. The Creator does not demand worship, adoration, or recognition. Okay? Now that goes directly in the face of the world's major religions that say the exact opposite, that God demands worship. Well, no, that's not what Monroe is saying here. He's saying the exact opposite. The Creator does not punish for evil and misdeeds. Again, flying directly in the face of religious teachings from, the world's largest religions, Monroe is here saying that the Creator is not here to punish us for what we deem evil or misdeeds, right? And the Creator does not intercede or interdict in our life activity. Again, another massive, turnaround, a 180 from what we learn in religions where they say, if you act a certain way, God will bless you and all those type of things. It's just not true. That's not what's happening. The Creator does not intercede or interdict in our life activity, okay? I thought that was very important. It's very interesting, again, how Monroe has to walk that fine line between science and kind of religion and spirituality. So let's see where we go here. Culturally, we know very little about death and beyond at this time. We may believe different premises and prospects, but that is not knowing. Okay, it's one thing to believe what might happen after death. It's a very different thing to know what happens after death. And that's what we do here in the Mind War. As mind warriors, citizen samurais, guerrilla gurus, and warrior monks, we are searching and we are exploring and experimenting with what comes next. And, I'm going to take a moment here. Over the last week, maybe 2 weeks, I have seen countless videos on TikTok and Instagram about people describing their near-death experiences. Again, we've talked about this quite a bit. People who are maybe in an accident or they're going through surgery and things like that. And they have these out-of-body experiences that they would call a near-death experience. And the way that they describe it is almost word for word what we learn and put into practice through the use of the Gateway Experience tapes. I believe that we are having the exact same experiences that humans do when they die. We are able to, again, just get a taste. We're just the scent of what it means to continue on after death. We get to explore that. It's the importance of what we do here. It shows the gravity of what we are doing here. Again, the Gateway Experience tapes, most important part, fundamentally, self-help. That's what we're here first and foremost to do, is the self-help. But once we have healed the mind, body, and spirit, and now we want to advance our tools, our experiences, our knowledge, that's what we are now doing. We now turn from the self-help, learning the basic skills that we need to be successful in our own lives, right? Now we move further into that exploration of what comes next. The only thing that we all do know is that physical death is going to happen to each and every one of us, and to those we love sooner or later. But that is all. And hence comes the fear. Again, there is no fear here in the Mind War. And again, in these last few chapters, we are kind of hearing the desperate voice of Robert Monroe as he grapples with the impending death of his wife and his own death in so many ways. And it's through that desperation where I think we are finding some of these truths. To compound the situation, virtually all of our knowledge and scientific study are focused upon physical matter and time-space. Our insatiable dream is to know all about the here and now, without exception or omission. The origin of this compulsion goes back to the human struggle to exist in a hostile environment, driven by the directive to survive. This underlying motive is still present, even though heavily disguised. Again, this search for knowledge, the search for understanding in the physical world, wanting to know every single thing about life and how to extend it beyond its natural borders and limits, that comes from our instinct to survive. We are moving past that instinct to survive, okay? We are moving past those instinctual things that drive us, often pushed forward by fear. We're leaving that fear behind, and we're starting to accept the upcoming transition that we all are going to face. We accept it. We appreciate it for what it is. And now we want to explore it so we can get more knowledge about what truly does come next. In the matter of physical death, our sciences can provide only those approaches that somehow relate to physical matter. Specifically, we are looking at a system of measurement of something. If there is no electrical signal in the brain, if there is no chemical action, if there is no physical movement, then you have nothing. So death equals nothing. And if you ask whether the human mind disappears when the electrochemical reaction ceases, much like the magnetic field around an electromagnet when the electricity is shut off, you will most certainly receive a positive answer. But you may continue. Such magnetic fields don't really disappear because they leave measurable imprints on sensitive matter in or near them. So what about the mind? Of course comes the scientific reply. Humans do much the same. They live in the memory of their remaining loved ones or in the physical artifacts they caused to be formed. Their work, their books, their buildings, their art, and so on. But that is all. So again, one of the parts of this art project that I've been working on is creating the symbols you see in front of me and behind me. Again, the purpose of these is not only for them to be kind of logos for what I'm doing here, but also all of the information that we're gathering and that we're learning and sharing together. All of that information is going to be smushed into these symbols. So in the future, when we see these symbols, when others see these symbols, they know what they mean and what's really behind them. And it's all the work that we've been doing here in the Mind War. I hope that makes sense to you. It's the same way when you look at the symbol of a cross. You know that it's Christianity and all the history behind it. When you look at a Nike logo, you understand that that's a sports-related attire, right? A clothing company, and it started with shoes and all that type of stuff. You know the history of Nike and what its purpose is. And that's the same thing. My hope is that all the things that we're learning are going to be compressed into these symbols. So when people see them again in the future, whether it's us returning back and seeing these things in the future in another life and remembering all that we've learned here in the Mind War, or for other people who are alive today, who are, they see these things and they become, inquisitive and say, what are these symbols? What are they about? And they start to do their research and they find out what we've uncovered here in the Mind War. It is easy to see why so many scientists and medical professionals are nihilists or atheists in their public stance. But even so many have forced into belief image of survival owing to cultural pressure or hidden hopes and guilts. Moreover, scientific and medical researchers are inadvertent participants in the Earth Life System predator process. As such, they are prone to adjust their data to suit their needs as much as anyone else. Nevertheless, some of our greatest scientists have deduced that we are more than our physical bodies, or at least that our mind is more than the output of our brain. So again, he's talking about scientists, and they do their very best to present us with factual information to help us understand the physical world. But in doing so, they also have to deal with their own impending death and what comes next. So you're always going to get just a sliver of their opinion and their belief systems in whatever they try to present, right? The bulk of our scientific knowledge is not germane to any approach that tries to make something out of nothing. And so we must reluctantly set it aside. Scientific endeavor is almost wholly enmeshed in the earth-life system and physical time-space, and very little is applied in this arena. Nor do religions or philosophies provide us with much help. For thousands of years, men of religion in particular have been trying to persuade us to believe in subsequent to death existence. A vast number of techniques have been utilized in the attempt to keep followers into the knowing stage, but very few, if any, have succeeded. Again, the religions are going to teach you that there were people in the past who were enlightened, who were able to have all sorts of spiritual experiences, but those people were special, and it was only allowed to happen in the past to them. And anyone who is trying to do experience these same type of events in their life and really trying to gain control of their lives, anyone who's trying to do that, no, that's evil and wrong, okay? Again, that's where you have to be very careful with these religions. They're going to just on the surface talk to you about all the same type of things that we're doing here in the mind war, but again, they're going to say, don't touch it, that's bad. But you're going to believe in it because somebody in the past supposedly did it. I don't know. In the past, they probably did. But that doesn't mean that we can't do it here in the present. And it doesn't mean that we can't train others, future mind warriors, into the future. New groups of people. That's the goal here. Again, sharing our experiences with others. So we come back to personal experience. If it were possible to cross the border, to visit the area of so-called nothing and return, and to describe it as it is in clear terms uninhabited by belief systems, then this would in time lead to worldwide knowing and consequently the elimination of fear. But so far, we do not know how to do this. Again, what Monroe is saying, that built into our societal, cultural, and religious belief systems is fear. Fear is the underlying thing that holds all of those systems together. They are built in order to keep us afraid, in order to control us, right? But Monroe is saying here, if we can recreate these near-death experiences over and over and over again and explore the abyss and explore what comes next and come back and clearly communicate that to everyone else, then we're going to see fundamental changes in the belief systems worldwide. That's what we're doing here, folks. If you didn't quite understand that up to this point, that is what we are doing. We are going to fundamentally change the structure of belief systems around the world. And it starts with us. Yet there is the possibility that we are already doing it and we simply don't remember. If I knew with no trace of a doubt that I would be able, what I would be able to do after I died, it would change me radically. I could live my physical life to the fullest without the shadow lurking behind every second. The shadow that says one wrong move and your time is up. If we knew that each of us had the option to depart when we were certain our physical future held no more light for us, how our lives would be transformed. If we had the assurance that no matter what happens, we can continue our love bonding beyond the earth-life system and time-space. If we were certain that when a loved one departs, we would know beyond a doubt where we can find him or her, what a wonderful freedom we would have. I think that's beautiful, folks. Again, we are fundamentally and radically changing our own personal belief systems, because we are going from a place of fear and not knowing about what comes after death to now we are moving in a place of knowledge. We know what is coming because we've experienced it over and over and over again through our exploration. And that was chapter 16, The Roadside View, from the book Ultimate Journey. All right, welcome back, folks. We're going to pick up where we left off in Ultimate Journey, and that's chapter 17, titled More Work in Progress. And so what we're going to be looking at here is the difference between these kind of forced belief systems, again, the cultural, societal, and religious belief systems that are forced upon us at birth. And so many, I think every place in the world, when you're born, you're kind of forced into the belief system of that, physical location you were born into, right? That's just the reality as it is. So we're going to talk a little bit about what people who are still caught in those belief systems, what they find after death, versus people who are, like the author has said, atheist or nihilist, what do they experience after death? And it's much in the same, right? So he says here, while considering this, I came to realize how very few wrought-in steel belief systems my parents had forced on me. There had been no fire and brimstone, no devils or angels, no preaching about an afterlife, only the process of self-determination. Neither they nor I at the time realized how valuable their attitude was. For all of you parents out there, very, very important. He's saying that his parents didn't force any of these belief systems upon him, okay? And because of that, he was able to take a very wide open approach to gaining knowledge and experience and really understanding where we go next and what happens next. The fact that he didn't have these belief systems forced upon him allowed him to feel the freedom required to do this type of work. And I want to thank my parents for doing the same. There was very little belief systems in my family, right? I think my family is Lutheran, but we went to church maybe a half dozen times, like on Christmas or Easter, but that was it. I don't remember there ever being a Bible in my home. The only time that I really learned about the Bible was my Grandpa Victor, the namesake, where I get my name Victor from. He gave me a study Bible when I was a young boy, and it was more about the prophecies of the Bible and what was supposed to come, right? So many of those prophecies seem to be coming true, folks. So that's interesting, all stuff that we'll talk about in future seasons. But I thought that was interesting. I thought that was worth noting. Again, the freedom that comes to an individual's mind in order to search for new knowledge when they're not forced into belief systems. Think about that for a moment. If you are forced into a religion that tells you you can't think about certain things or do certain things, you're automatically cut off from these major branches and sources of knowledge. It's truly sad. So let's go on here. It says, all human creation, the basic. I know of the existence of our Creator, but are all of us really creators out of the same mold? Is my core self I accepted so casually as a minuscule replica or a clone of the original? How far can we take this only partially expressed idea? Okay, so basically what Monroe is saying here, again, we've kind of talked about it a little bit. The spirit that comes down into our physical body and animates our physical body and makes us who we are. It's our life, it's our memories, it's our dreams and accomplishments, right? There's also and again, this is kind of religious, but it's that breath of life that was breathed into us by the Creator. The Creator is in here with us. The whole, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, part of that is in here with us. It's again, and it's that part that connects us all together. And he's saying, are we separated from that? And I think the answer is no. I think it's a part of all of us, and it's like an instinctual drive that isn't focused on the physical. Because again, the instinctual drive to survive is more of a fear-based pushing forward to survive physical life. What we're talking about here is more of an instinctual drive for knowledge and creation and being creative and understanding. That's the left side of the brain. That's that spirit, that creator side of us that wants to continue to know and grow, right? So let's see what else we got here. So man, that was it for that chapter. But really, the big part that we take from chapter 17, more work in progress, what Monroe talks about in some of the analogies and allegories he uses in this chapter, right? He talks about, again, when people move on, they've passed away, he sees that some of them are going off the interstate into these very wide open off ramps that lead into religion. Okay. And those people are going to be caught up in the description of heaven or hell that they were taught by their religious belief. Okay. We've talked about that before. Seems pretty simple. Monroe says he has visited those locations and he found them to be a bore, kind of just a repeating loop of kind of nonsense, right? So basically he says, okay, where do atheists and nihilists go after they die? Where's their heaven? Where is their reception area to help them understand that they've passed and where they move forward next? And he described it as basically a park. An outdoor park, beautiful trees, lush landscape, something that every person is kind of drawn to. Every person on the planet would understand where they were and what this is, this natural beauty all around them. And so when they get there, again, that's kind of their version, atheist version of heaven, of that next place where you go to come to the realization that, oh, I have passed away. And now I need to make a decision on where we go next or what we're going to do next. And all of that comes up in these last few chapters of the book here. So again, that was chapter 17, More Work in Progress, from the book Ultimate Journey by Robert Monroe. We are going to be doing a deep dive into Wave 6 Odyssey, tape 3, Point of Departure, after a word from our sponsor.
Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War.
All right, welcome back, folks. Let's do our deep dive into Wave 6 Odyssey, tape 3, Point of Departure, folks. Two very interesting tapes that we're going to talk about in today's episode and next week's episode. I did both of these tapes last night using the enhancements of the Malabar psilocybin strain. Again, I went back to Malabar. That is my favorite strain. I think it's perfect for what we're doing here with the tapes. I think it transitions perfectly into what we do on the spiritual side. And again, both the tapes, the scientific side, and the spiritual work that I did last night, just absolutely amazing. Just beautiful feelings, very high, intense feelings throughout the night. And it was really awesome. And just new skills were built last night, and it's great. It's great to come upon those things when it's when it's time, right? So last night, I did something just a little bit different. Again, I've talked so much about making sure that you're not cold physically, that your body isn't physically cold when you listen to the tapes. And again, I wish I would have understood this so much earlier on in the series. I would have been preaching this from episode, the first episode on the Gateway series here. What I did last night was cranked up the heater, number one. The heater was up to about 72 degrees, so that was awesome. I got in the jumpsuit, or the track suit, right? I had some gloves that came with it, put the gloves on, got under 2 blankets, and here's the most important thing. Again, at this point, the enhancements of the psilocybin were kicking in very strong. I was ready to listen to the tape, but normally I just, right before I listen to the tapes, after the psilocybin starts kicking in, I normally step outside for a moment and use some THC and, smoke some weed, right? Because that enhances the mushrooms 10 times. It really kicks them into overdrive, right? And so normally in the past, what I would do, and I've talked about this before, as soon as I'm done smoking weed, I come right in, curl up in the bed, put the headphones and the eye covers on and hit play. Okay. But it takes 15 or 20 minutes to kind of warm up and to calm down and to be relaxed enough to, really get into the groove. But by then we're already 15, 20 minutes into the tape. And I always found myself like rushing to kind of catch up. So last night I waited 20 minutes. I just slid under the blankets. Again, the Malabar's kicking in. So I'm just listening to a podcast and just kind of staring at the room around me. It felt great. I allowed myself to really warm up, get nice and toasty before I hit play. And that was after about 20 minutes. That was a massive change. The tapes, just from the first second I hit play, were just so much more active and engaging than they normally are. So that is a huge piece of advice. Again, something I wish I would have been saying from day one. But take that extra 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes if you need to warm up, especially with the coming winter months, right? You need to make sure your body is nice and warm because that's what allows you to disconnect from it. If you're feeling cold, or if you feel like you have to use the restroom, or your stomach is hungry or overfull, or you're dealing with some type of pain, all of those things are going to be anchors keeping you in your physical body. So a huge piece of advice there, okay? So again, Wave 6 Odyssey, Tape 3, Point of Departure. The purpose of this exercise is to learn to navigate within the second state body in locale 1. Again, we're experiencing our second state body in locale 1, the here and now. It says, now, calm and comfortable in focus 12, floating in the field of your energy body and focused, feeling lighter and lighter, slowly thinking of yourself turning just as if you were turning over in bed. The position of lying on your back, turning over to lying on your stomach. Begin to turn either to the left or to the right, whatever is best for you. Turn. Now notice there is no friction, no sense of weight. Keep turning slowly, rotating until you have reached the 180-degree position. In this position, with your non-physical eyes, sense that you are face to face with your physical body. Feel and recognize this position. Now calmly think of yourself floating upward, up above your physical body. Remain in this position just above your physical body and observe, perceive in this new state of being. So basically what you're supposed to do here, you're lying on your back, you're looking at the ceiling. Now you are going to rotate your spirit body to the right or to the left, just like you're rolling over in bed. And again, I've talked about this before. I cannot really fall asleep just laying on my back, right? It's normally when I roll to the left or roll to the right, it's just like those sleep chemicals just wash over my mind as I turn. and then I'm just out like a light. And that really kind of what happened last night. As I'm picturing myself turning, I'm falling deeper and deeper into sleep. And last night, through both tapes, I could really tell that I was hitting new levels of deep sleep, hearing myself snoring and stuff like that. So it was very intense. So what happened last night, as I was rolling over, my second state, my spirit body is rolling over. I kept expecting myself to kind of have butterflies, right? Because you're feeling like, oh, am I going to fall off the bed? Am I just going to float away? But that wasn't the case. I didn't really get the feelings of butterflies like I felt in the past, where I'm falling downwards and stuff like that, right? Because it was interesting, because my perception, yes, I was recognized that I had turned 180 and now I was kind of facing downward, right? But it didn't feel like I was looking in the wrong direction or anything. My perception was just, oh, forward is now down. That might be hard to understand, but it wasn't, again, there was no butterflies in the stomach or anything like that. It was just more of this realization of, oh, I'm just looking forward now, and forward is down. Okay. I didn't see myself. I didn't float up above and see myself. Instead, here's what happened. So in past episodes, I talked about visually kind of, in my left side of the brain where you're awake, I kind of visualize myself there standing in front of this glass wall. And on the other side of the glass wall is the right side of my brain. That's where the abyss is, because that's the part of our mind that is asleep, right? And you look out into it, and it's like looking into the dark waters, right? And you're seeing things kind of swim by back and forth. And those are almost like dreams that you can reach and grab onto. So it was almost that same staging area, right? But it was like, again, this analogy of the spaceship, because we hear the spaceship sounds, okay? So again, the spaceship, now that I'm facing downward, that spaceship is still taking off. And so now, instead of floating upwards, now we're floating downwards, right? Into the abyss, down, almost into the earth, right? And so as I'm doing this, it's like we come to a stop, but we're still kind of in that spaceship. And for the very first time, it felt, and this is a weird way to describe it, because it wasn't so visual that I was seeing these things. It's just more that this is how it felt. It felt like the cargo bay doors of the spaceship opened up, and I was connected to a tether, but I was able to actually float outside of the spaceship in the abyss for the first time, really floating out there in the darkness, right? Very strange. Again, I wasn't prepared for this. This isn't what I was thinking this tape was going to be. I kind of pictured it more of like, oh, my physical body's here, and then my spirit body is just floating above it, and I'm going to be staring at my own stupid face. That's not really what happened for me. Again, for me, it was more, we went downwards in the spaceship. We went deep into that darkness. The cargo bay opened up, and we were allowed to finally float out there, but it was very safe because we were tethered, right? Very interesting. Great feeling. Again, each one of these tapes, we just are slowly moving a little bit further into the abyss. The tools are getting us further and further from our physical body in a way, right? And so, again, very intense, not scary or anything. These are beautiful feelings. When your spirit body is expanding, it's a beautiful feeling. It's a feeling of weightlessness. It is a feeling of no pain. You're not worrying about issues in your life. None of that stuff exists in this state of being. It's all left behind. And part of that, especially For you younger folks that are listening, you might not quite understand this yet, especially if you haven't had to deal with physical pain in your life. But for the older folks like myself who are dealing with chronic health issues and stuff, being able to physically leave the pain of your body behind truly is just such a weight off of the shoulders, right? It really is an amazing feeling. And it's doing it the way that we're doing now, because people could say, oh, dude, you're just doing drugs and you're just like, not feeling pain and shit. And it's like, no, I get it, right? We could just be popping pills and stare at the TV and have no pain. Fine. Other people are doing that. What we're doing is, because we do this so infrequently, for me, it's once every 2 weeks. This is something very special, right? I don't take it for granted. I hold it dear into my heart what I'm doing here, because this is one time every 2 weeks where I'm able to escape from that pain, escape from the constant battle of upkeep of the physical body and the issues that we all deal with in our own way, right? So it's something that is sacred to us. We don't overuse it or abuse it, right? So again, this beautiful feeling floating outside of the spaceship. And again, the voice talks us back and says, okay, it's time to come back. We're going to come back into focus 12. And I'm telling you, folks, it's not when you're deep in the heart of the expanded state of being. It's often when you are coming back into your body when you realize how far you truly were. The state of being that you've really been in for the last 15 to 20 minutes starts to get much more clear when you realize, holy shit, where was I? Because focus 12 used to feel like we were expanded out into every corner of the universe. But now we know that focus 12 was just one rung on the ladder. We weren't even anywhere near the top of the ladder yet. So now, again, we're moved back to focus 12. And at that point, I'm like, holy shit, where was I? That feeling, where was this expanded state of my spirit body? And now when we get into focus 12, the narrator comes back on and says, now in focus 12, express gratitude for all you have experienced. Let it radiate throughout your entire being. Take a moment to express this gratitude. Okay. That's so important. And it's something that I think we've overlooked, again, because of the way that Robert Monroe used this kind of pseudoscience to explain what we're doing here and taking it away from spiritual or religion. We don't think of being grateful or giving gratitude or thanks for what we just experienced. Because normally it's like, oh, we give thanks to God or whatever it is. But we have to do that. We're giving thanks to the experience itself. And that's an amazing thing. So that was great. I was so glad to hear that added to the tapes, this a chance to really be thankful for what we just experienced. And it says, now you will return back to your full physical waking consciousness as I count from 12 back to 1. Holy moly. This is, again, a new change to the tapes. The narrator counts us from 12 back to 1. And that process, man, is so wild as you are literally feeling yourself come back into your body. You're recognizing, like, I recognized, oh, my perception and my thinking is back into my physical brain now. The moment that I made it back into my brain, I was like, holy shit, man, where was my perception just moments ago? Because again, it's not until you come back into your physical body do you realize how far out of it you truly were. And so as they keep counting down, you start to feel your hands kind of materializing again. You feel your feet materializing. And then the narrator says, now start to move your limbs a little bit. And so you start moving your fingers and your toes. And then they say, take this deep breath. And you take a deep breath all of a sudden. And you're like, wow, I'm waking up now. I'm waking up from my body being fully asleep. It's so small. It's such a small thing, and people discount it. The left side of your mind is fully alert, wide and awake, while the right side of your brain and your physical body are completely deep asleep. It's beautiful, simple. It's such a basic state of being that we can all get into, but people just don't understand it. They don't understand what we're doing or how we get there. And that's why it's so important to share it with them, because even just that simple first state of being, that focus 10, it's so amazing to get there, right? So again, another beautiful tape here. Let me check my notes. It says it turned upside down by facing down, just felt like facing forward. It was like being let out of the spaceship for the first time, being allowed to float in the darkness of the abyss. The abyss is the right side of your brain that is asleep, but I felt tethered. Again, very interesting tape. I'm now really starting to understand where MZOO is going with this. And over the next few episodes and into next season, we are really moving away from what we've been doing traditionally, which is, again, that self-help stuff. And we are now moving to a place where we're going to be helping others, people who have already moved on. Very interesting stuff that's coming up here, folks. And it really is going to start tying all the things that we've read through MZOO's trilogy of books. It really starts to tie it all together here in the end as we move towards the end of this series. So again, that was Wave 6 Odyssey, Tape 3, Point of Departure. Another very interesting tape. A few great chapters here from the book Ultimate Journey. As always, I appreciate you being here. And remember, folks, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War.